Hey everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com. It's about 11:30 on Sunday morning, July 13th, 2014. Normally, I wouldn't be doing this video at this time. I would be at church with my family. But my son is back in medical care at the hospital, and so here I am. And by the way, that may impact the schedule this week. I just frankly have no way of knowing, so please be patient. My wife is spending most of the time there, but I have to give her a break from time to time, in between, doing this and also running my own business. So just please, I beg for your forgiveness and patience as we go forward throughout this week. Before we take a look at our weekly review and what happened on Friday, I need to remind you again that the website and the video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I can draw lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I am not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's take a look. Well, we were up marginally, not much at all. And I pointed out, I think it was in Thursday's video, that we've had a series of upward moves that were then followed by pullbacks. And let me just put this back on here. I think probably this... I cleaned up the chart a little bit, but I'm going to put that line back on. So basically, we came up off of the 1870s, had a nice move up to significantly over, well over 1900, up to about, I think we were in the mid-1950s. Started to sell back just a little bit, made sort of, not exactly, but just sort of made a nice little corrective dip. By the way, when people talk about corrections, does that mean this was a mistake? That's always kind of bothered me a little bit. I think I want to say the market gave up a little bit in response to the gains. It's not a correction, it's a little sell-off. This was as correct as this is. But anyway, we came back down, rallied back up, made a new high, then entered a little bull flag pattern. By the way, there was a bear flag in the middle of the larger bull flag. Then we rallied back up, then fell back down. By the way, we broke rising support when we made this bull flag. Here we have broken rising support, this blue line, and this could very well be another bull flag in forming. We will know when we see what happens early in the week that starting tomorrow. If we rally up over this line significantly and are able to set a new all-time high, then I would say, again, we've got 1990 as a target. I believe that is a realistic, I think that is a fine target to have, and I believe we will make it. We missed it by about 5 points back here on the short session on July 3rd, but by all indications, I'm not giving up on that. There is one little thing that's a little troubling for a bull, and that's the fact that if this is a significant trend line right here, and again, this is drawn over really these two lows, it just so happens to also line up with this breakout point. But well, let me back up. Not if we. We on Thursday got underneath this line, got over it just a little bit late in the session, and on Friday we really closed just about exactly on it. So I would, if this acts as a bull flag, then this line will have to be overcome. And if this line is correct, there should be some resistance about where we are now. there's always the possibility that this line is not correct, but I'm leaving it where it is because I think this is the best place to put it currently. There is an alternative. We could say, well, actually, look here. We've got support after that breakout, and then we have this touch, a fail to touch, and then this one right here. Well, maybe. That could be. But we won't know this is a bottom until we get significantly over this line right here, proving itself to have been a technically important point. At this point in time, it is possible that we come back to this and we say, no, we broke trend here, and now we're heading down. That is a possibility. But we still haven't made that 1990 target, and because there is a little bit of ambiguity here, I am choosing to use the shorter term pattern of this potential bull flag. And if you'll remember, we talked about the incredible similarities. If you want to just look at it for yourself, look what took place between these two lines and what has taken place so far between these two lines. It's just a tremendous amount of similarities. I'll leave that up to you. If you need help with that, I went over it. I believe it was Thursday's video. So, as far as the week went, well, we came into the week very close to that 1990 target, and we also came up for a second back test of this broken brown support line that got taken out actually 2 weeks ago. So it's no big surprise that when we tagged this line for the second time that we encountered some weakness, but I was still hopeful early on in the week that we would meet our minimum target of 1990, at which point we would reevaluate to see, do we need to now start looking for a short-term top? Now, if you're a bear and you want to know, oh, by the way, the rest of the week was just selling off in a pattern that we later, on Thursday, that I later identified as a potential bull flag. I say potential because it hasn't broken out yet. If it breaks out, then the net result of that should be at least a move to 1990. Now, remember this green trend line right here? It's a very light color because I'm not putting a tremendous amount of value in this line, but here it is. And you can see that it very nicely bisects, if you will, an area of consolidation back in early June, whereas everything underneath here, everything prior to that point was pretty much underneath this line for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait a minute. Let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks almost spent underneath this line. Then once we got over it, we have not gotten back under it yet. So, interesting to note that we got a bounce just about on this line as we look at the chart and as we look at the lows that we saw. Let me do a 30-minute thing here. It's not exact, but fairly close if we look at the lows that we saw on the very weak open on Thursday morning of this past week. So guys, right now I think what I'm looking for is I'm curious to see if we get deja vu all over again between these two lines, and if it ends up looking similar to what we saw between these two lines. So let's just keep an eye on it. If this does not work out that way, and we end up experiencing this line as significant resistance, then we've got the green line again, and then after the green line we've got this turquoise line, and then finally we've got this 40% retracement line that I've extended out a bit that could also give the markets some support. So guys, remember, we are working all of this off of this pattern right here, where we had resistance at 1900. Now that we're over that, we need to look for a move to 1990. And I want to remind you, just as a caveat, that there is a little bit of wiggle room with where this neckline really is. I'm leaving it here because it's nice and neat and pretty horizontal. But you could make the point that it is not horizontal, and that instead of it passing over the highs we saw in the middle of May, in the week of the 12th, that maybe this should be drawn slightly descending over the highs that we saw in the weeks of in the first week of May. If that's the case, then our target would have been more like 1978. So, just saying, it's not always an exact and perfect science. As a matter of fact, it rarely is. Here's that turquoise line I was showing you. Again, it's a fairly neat line with 1, 2, 3 significant areas of support. The most notable of which is obviously the inverted head back here, which was a significant low, and then again the inverted head of our inverted head and shoulders pattern. And I've wiggled this line around just a little bit, so I'm kind of averaging this and this to shoot that thing on up to where we are now. Should it be here? Possibly. Should it be here? Possibly. So frankly, I'm splitting the difference, and I'm not saying that this line is absolutely in stone to where if we fall underneath this at some point by 0.3% that we're done. I'm not saying that. And just one more thing to point out, and this is, again, I like to present as many different scenarios as I can so that we're prepared for a potential surprise. I think it's fairly important that we see that this work out as a bull flag, because if we don't, then we may be looking at a smallish a smallish head and shoulders top right here. We'd make that a purple neckline. Okay, you see, we would have left shoulder, head, maybe a right shoulder. So if this line breaks, then I think it's probably a real safe bet that we would come down and test this line right here, at least. In that currently, early in this week is in the 1920s, and throughout on Thursday and Friday, it's back into the low 1930s. So that's why I think it would be good for us to watch this level right here. And why do I say we would get down there? Well, because if this is a little head and shoulders top, then we would measure a breakout that should take us down to the 1920s. But again, it would be interesting to see if we get picked up by this line right here, possibly before we would make that full downside target. And again, this line, maybe it's actually here. You get the point. We got these little opening weakness, these gaps down that define the start of the potential head and the end of the potential head, and sometimes those opening moves can get a little bit overdone. So guys, I think I'm going to let that be it. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we play out with this being a bull flag as it was back here. If it's not and we start to come down, then let's see if we get picked up on these two lines right here. If we set a low that is lower than what we saw on Thursday, however, then I think we are likely looking at a trip down into the 1920s or the 1930s. If we look at a 5-minute chart, it's actually kind of interesting, because you may even say that what we saw develop Thursday and late Thursday and early Friday is in itself a little bull flag. So it would be something like, I don't know, we could there are a number of ways we could try to make that into a pattern, but you can see a clear line of resistance that was operating for much of late Thursday and early Friday, and then a nice move over that. And we are by a hair over this resistance line in this potential bull flag pattern. It's just we need a good bit more on that move for that to really bring that point home and to convince me that this is a breakout move over this line. So guys, there's your video for the week ending July 11th, 2014. I really appreciate your support, and I'm going to say something a little different here. And for those of you who've expressed your concern for my 16-year-old son, I appreciate your concern, and I appreciate your prayers. So he's going through a rough time right now, and we're having to get pretty aggressive with some medicines that, quite frankly, scare the daylights out of me. Some of the side effects are just horrendous. Rare, but if you get the unlucky draw on that, it's not good. So guys, again, thank you. Be patient with me this week. I'm going to do everything I can to get videos to you when I can. They may be late in the day. It may be a case where they come kind of early, 2, 3 o'clock. If we've established something and if we've seen an important move, I may elect to release a video that was done at 2:30 in the afternoon here on the East Coast. So please bear with me. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this.